Hey, it's Matt, your average gamer, and for this video, we're going to be going over the Greatsword and a build guide for the first Berserker Khazan. This is an amazing weapon. I really love this weapon after testing it for a while. It's a lot of fun, does really good damage. We're going to go over some combos, everything you need to know for a powerful Greatsword build, and how to do a lot of damage with it as well. Now, the Greatsword packs an absolute punch, and the main thing you need to learn is Mortal Blow. You can use this by simply using square and then charging triangle if you're on PlayStation, so light attack and then a charged hit, and you're going to hold that. Or you can simply hold square and then hold triangle, hold your light, and then hold your charge. There's a lot of ways to do Mortal Blow, but it does a lot of damage, and this is the big selling point for the Greatsword because it can lead into a whole bunch of other combos, and then when you add in something like Knight's Veil, which we'll go over later, you can consistently do damage while you're using these combos. Here's an on-screen example of a late game combo that we can use here. We are first going to go for Mortal Blow, get a lot of damage with that. Then we're going to use Inner Fury. I had time to do other things here, but I did go in for the critical hit. Afterwards, I used Knight's Veil, then follow up with a massive charged hit. I do get a little damage there. He goes down though, and we do a lot of damage. All right, now to do a big example here, and this is going to be a little bit of a boss fight. We're going to skip the spider that's at the end of this fight because it involved a lot of running around. I'm going to show different combos, how to use the Greatsword, and how to make the best of it in battle. So my favorite thing for the Greatsword is the simplest, and that's just running, holding triangle, and getting your jump attack because it does a lot of poise damage and it keeps pressure on the boss. We can consistently bring down their posture bar, and then once they get a break, once they go into basically critical state where you can do a brutal attack, it really becomes... you're just winning the fight at that point for a lot of instances because you could stack so much damage. This is one of those weapons that makes the best out of critical damage, and you're going to see that here where we get the critical hit in and then a couple mortal blows. We go for the critical. Afterwards, we're going to follow up with Inner Fury, and then we go in for a big slam down, and he's down. That's the end of it right there. There's a lot of damage that you could stack with the Greatsword. It's pretty impressive. This is a weapon you're going to have a lot of fun with. Learning it is a little bit difficult. The spear is definitely simpler. I'll leave my guide for the spear in the description below. However, the Greatsword does more damage. I've heard the dual blades have technically the highest DPS. I'll be doing a guide for them at some point as well. But I switched to the Greatsword in the late game because it simply just did more damage than the spear, and I felt like learning it. It's been a lot of fun so far. You can see here, once again, we're going for those jumping charged hits. We're going to charge our regular hit here, get a lot of damage, go in for a critical break, and then you could usually follow up afterwards. A lot of bosses in this game tend to scream after you get that critical hit or whatever, so afterwards you're just going to go in and do even more damage. A lot of times you could take that risk. There we have the block and counter. That's L1 and circle, I believe, on PlayStation. That's really good to use for those unblockable attacks. This is my skill tree for the end game. You can pause this at any point if you want to kind of design it this way so you can get a good amount of damage with the Greatsword. But overall, we're focusing on Inner Fury, Knight's Veil, Mortal Blow. Those are the things that you're going to want to get early on to start getting a lot of damage with the Greatsword. It truly is an impressive weapon. I've loved this weapon playing with it so far. It's more fun than the spear in my opinion. With that said, the spear is still a lot easier to learn. Now for stats here, we're going to go over now. Your main stat is strength, so you're going to want to go heavy in strength. You want a good amount of endurance and vigor, of course, too. And second to that is going to be proficiency. These are my stats for the end game. You can pause them here. And now for equipment, I am using the Sentinel's Greatsword and the Crimson Fiend set. This is an awesome set that increases the damage of Mortal Blow, and I highly suggest using this one. We're going to jump into the second to last boss fight here for an example, so spoilers ahead. Alright, so I said spoilers, we're going to jump into the Reese Fight now. Reese is a pretty difficult boss fight. Some people say this boss is easy, but it's relatively long. One of the issues I found with the end game, and I only have the final boss left at this point, I just have to kind of learn him, is that some of these endgame bosses just have too much HP. Their movesets are really fun to learn, but the fights tend to go on too long. The dragon fight prior to this one took me 11 minutes to take down, and it was mostly a simple moveset. Didn't even take me more than an hour to get him down, but the problem was halfway through the fight, I was relatively bored. So if I have any criticism for the game, I would say that some of these endgame bosses typically just have a little bit of HP bloat and could be adjusted better. With that said, This fight's really fun. We're going to get into it now and go over all the examples for the Greatsword and how to use it. As you can see, we're starting with those jump attacks. There's a mortal blow in there. We're going to be able to critically break her soon. And once we critically break her, this is our opportunity to get in damage, right? So we're going to go for a charged hit there, 15,000 damage, another 5, another 6, another 6. And then we follow up with Inner Fury there. She's already at, like, a third of her HP is already down just from that. And then she'll get stunned after you use Knight's Veil a lot of the time. That one attack that you saw on screen is the only time in Phase 1 she gets true hyper armor. You're going to want to avoid that and get away from her. It goes through pretty much no matter what. These you can deflect every time they blink. Right after the blink, you hit the deflect button. You deflect them, brink guard them, and they're going to go back to her, and they're going to do massive posture damage. For this, the Storm, you get behind her, charge your heavy, get a big hit to the back, 20,000 damage there. The big opportunity here in Phase 1 is to try to not take a lot of damage by simply just beating her up as much as you possibly can. It makes Phase 2 a little bit more tolerable because odds are most players like myself are going to take some damage in Phase 2. In Phase 1, I'm not really going to take much because it's relatively simple overall, and we're just going to keep the pressure on her. As long as we keep the pressure on her, she's literally just going to be broken most of the time. That big spell there, I like to run to the side. I don't want to risk dodging it at the last minute. The counter there, L1 and circle, it's got a pretty nice timing window, so it's actually pretty excellent. If you use that when she's close to you or when she's a little bit farther away starting her dive, most of the time you're going to land that counter attack, and that's huge because you can stun her, get some damage in, get some posture damage in, and then usually follow up with a charged heavy. If you're using Knight's Veil prior to that, it'll actually stun her immediately afterwards, and you'll be able to get in massive damage. Here we go again. We're going to beat her up, of course, because she's critically broken, and then continue to follow up with even more damage. You can see the damage is just very stackable with the Greatsword. It's really impressive to how much damage you can get out of it, and how much poise damage you can get, and how much you can beat up these bosses' stamina bars and break them, and then start stacking damage. She's going to do the Storm again here. Not in a great position here on the side. That's the only reason why I took damage. Took a risk there, but it's all right. She ended up getting stunned from the charge attack there. That's the infinite hyper armor attack, so you're going to want to back off from that. I did take a little bit of damage. Only had heal once in Phase 1. Not too bad at all. And of course, we're going to go in for a charged heavy here, and we can pretty much finish her off with a counter attack here, timed right there. And let's go into Phase 2. What a damn good soundtrack, though, in all seriousness. The soundtrack to this is amazing. There we're going to go for the blink and dodge every time. It'll just flash on screen, and then you're going to hit the brink guard, and if you perfect deflect it, most of the time they'll go back to her. They'll do posture damage. I'm going to do the same thing here to start. A lot of jump attacks. She has a couple simple combos here, but she's not going to do that much until she's down roughly about a third of her HP bar. Try to learn these. It's going to take you probably a little bit of time if you're like me and you're an average player to learn some of her combos in Phase 2. She has a lot of varied combos that can lead into other combos as the fight goes on, so you're going to have to know what to recognize. She is a little bit frustrating to fight in this phase, and she has a lot more poise than she had in Phase 1. With that said, we're going to take advantage of the breaking her state again, do massive damage, throw in Inner Fury for even more damage, follow up with a jump attack, slam down, regular hit, get some poise damage and stamina damage for the next break, and then continue to block, pay attention to her, bounce that right back to her. She took some poise damage there. And of course, we're going to block these again. As soon as it blinks, brink guard, hit her, and her posture meter, stamina meter, is already down to less than half, so not bad at all. Right there again, same window. Once she starts diving at you, you're going to hit that counter button, and you're just going to stop her right in her tracks. You can usually follow up with a charged hit, especially if you're using Knight's Veil. Keep that Knight's Veil thing, remember that. Keep that in the back of your head, because if you're using that, you could stun her a lot of times and stop her in her tracks. It's incredibly helpful, and one of the very few ways in Phase 2 to completely stop her from attacking. This is 2 guards. And then a last minute guard. I missed that last one. It has the delay. So it's guard, guard, delay, and then guard again. Same thing with the wings. It also has delay. First one comes out, delay, and then there's 2 quick ones that you can brink guard. When she does this, once again, I'm going to run to the side. It's always going to give me an extra opportunity to dodge it from the outside rather than in the middle of it. Because if you are in the middle of it, you're going to need to perfect dodge it. Otherwise, it might even one-hit you. It's a really high damage attack. We perfect guarded those, sent them back to her. And her posture meter, once again, her stamina meter is already taking a lot of damage here. That's the big thing. And this combo is a little bit frustrating. She's going to go in for the dive, though. I love that dive because it makes my life easier. Didn't have Knight's Veil on. See, if you saw there, didn't get the stun because we didn't have the extra damage from that it surrounds you with damage. Now we have it, of course, going for the critical break. Then, once again, use Inner Fury. Get some extra damage on her. And then get ready for her whole meter again. Because this fight is relatively long. But you will get it, I'm sure. I'm pretty average at these games is my point, and I'm getting these bosses in a couple hours after learning each one. It didn't really take me long, though, to fight her and take her down once I switched to the Greatsword. It was a much better weapon for her than the spear. I really struggled with the spear on her. It was just taking too long and she had too much health. I felt like after the dragon fight, the spear kind of fell off a little bit, and I wanted more damage. I'm eventually going to learn the dual blades, too. There we get the counter in again. We're going to go in for a charged hit. We do take some damage here that was probably unnecessary. You can counter that too. That one has a shorter window though. Once she moves towards you, you got to hit that counter button quick. If you don't, she's going to hit you and then she's going to follow up with a massive attack that's very reminiscent of Waterfowl from Millennia in Elden Ring. It is an incredible attack that's going to shred your HP. She can usually follow up afterwards. Here's the teleports. There's one. There's going to be two. And then afterwards, we're going to have another two. Assuming you don't get broken there, or even if you just get regular broken and you're not stunned too long, just back off and get away. That's the main thing there. You don't want to hang around that spot or even try to attack her. There we get the guard again. We're taking advantage of those. Those are really big. Going to help you once you learn your windows for those. It makes the fight a lot easier. Of course, this one is going to come down to the wire because a lot of these fights for me too. And Phase 2 is definitely a lot more challenging. Didn't take much damage in Phase 1, and Phase 2, certainly a little bit more difficult. So at the end here, she's going to start combining a lot of her combos. She becomes significantly more dangerous, and my biggest suggestion here is to get rid of her as soon as possible because she's going to start using everything in her arsenal. I know this is supposed to be kind of a cool endgame like type fight at the very end, and some people struggled, some didn't with this fight. I struggled with the spear. I didn't really struggle with the greatsword. With that said, though, I do not like that most of these bosses at the end tend to just combine everything together, especially if they have 2 full health bars. It just feels kind of a little bit cheap at the end, like they're just going to throw everything at you and hope you have to do the whole fight all over again. Yeah, it's a little bit frustrating there. But other than that, I have very few complaints about this game. It's been an absolute blast. I love this game. But yeah, if they could just keep it like a little bit chill towards the end of these fights, that would be a lot better. I feel like that's like a Souls-like requirement. Just have them do every ridiculous combo at the end just to make sure that the fight is incredibly difficult and there's a chance you'll lose and have to do it again. I can't tell you how many times, even after the Greatsword, I really had no problem with Phase 1 and the first half of Phase 2. How many times I got to the last third of the fight and then struggled. And the reason was because she just starts to spam you with everything. But with that said, let's go take her down. She's got a couple more combos here. This one, if you guard the last one here, I'm really bad at it. You can actually break her temporarily. That's a really good one to learn. I just really apparently don't have the reflexes for that one because I missed it a lot. And we're going to go in for some more damage here. Inner Fury again. Follow up with a jump attack. Didn't want to risk too much here because I figured she was going to attack again, and I was right. She's going to take damage from brink guards, and down she goes with the Greatsword. This is an awesome weapon. Definitely pick this one up and give it a try. And thanks for watching this one. Thanks for tuning in to my Greatsword guide for the first Berserker Khazan. I love this game. It's been so much fun so far. Really challenging, really great. If you haven't picked this one up yet, I highly recommend it. I mentioned this before, I don't tell people to buy games because you know what's worth, the money to yourself and you can make your own decisions. But for me, it was well worth the money, I'll say that. This has been an absolute blast. Dual Blades I'll be checking out soon and taking on the final boss soon as well. Catch you in the next one.